What do you remember next after that?
I punched him.
I feared for my life. That's one thing I can't deny. That's embedded in my head forever.
Do you remember telling law enforcement that after Nicolae stabbed you, you punched him?
I do.
And is that on the video?
No.
You believe you're mistaken on that?
Yes.
My soul is broken. My heart is very heavy. And I will never be the same carrying such a heavy burden and sorrow.
The man who went on trial for stabbing to death a 17-year-old and injuring others in a brutal fight on a Wisconsin river learned his fate this week. We are going to break down the full trial of Nicolae Miu and what sentence the judge handed down in this very tragic case. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Nicolae Miu, the Minnesota man who was convicted for fatally stabbing 17-year-old Isaac Schuman and injuring 4 others in a brutal brawl on the Apple River out in Wisconsin, has officially been sentenced, and we are going to get to what that sentence is. But in order to understand what the sentence is and the final outcome of this case, we need to do a recap. We need to do a recap of this trial, this case, these circumstances. We covered it extensively on the Law&Crime Network, and now we're going to focus on it here on Sidebar. So we go back to July 22nd when Miu finds himself in a confrontation with a bunch of people on this river. So the now 54-year-old had apparently wandered over to this group of young people, claiming he was searching for his friend's lost cell phone in the water because he was with a group of people. He was wearing a snorkel, he was wearing goggles, and this group starts to call him names. And things escalate. It turns into a full-blown violent encounter. Miu claims he was acting in self-defense when he used the knife, and as you will see, he testifies in his own defense. Now, there was a cell phone video of this fight that was presented during his trial. The jurors saw it. Unfortunately, we are not going to show it to you here. It is just way too violent. It is way too graphic, although I will show you the beginning parts of what happened here, but stay with me on that. Now, to get a better sense of what happened, let's start with the opening statements in this trial from the prosecution and the defense. Here is the prosecution laying out their theory of what happened.
You're going to hear people yelling at Nicolae over 20 times, some version of, get away, go away. You hear the boys, the teenagers yelling, get away from us, get the away, get back, get away from us, walk away, walk away. You're going to hear that there's another group of tubers, adults, who hear this and come over to help the boys. You're going to hear them yelling, go, get your and go, go, get your go, 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 go. You're going to hear that Isaac's group and the group of adult tubers, I'll probably refer to them as the Carlson group throughout the trial, didn't know each other, still don't know each other. You're going to hear from both of those groups testify about what they saw. You're going to hear that there's 6 victims in this case. 1 that was punched, 5 that were stabbed, and you're going to hear from all those victims except Isaac Schuman. That's because on July 30th of 2022, Nicolae Miu killed him. Nicolae puts his goggles in his mouth and grabs onto their tubes with 2 hands. You'll hear in the video the boys are yelling, whoa, whoa, what's this guy doing, weirdo? You can see their reactions in the video. That's Alex Vang on the left. Nicolae drops his goggles and snorkel in the water. He then starts reaching in the water where they fall into the water. He starts walking around their tubes. They're yelling at him, get away from us, walk away. They're also chirping at him. You'll hear Jawan saying, he's a pedophile. Nicolae says something back, you can't hear it in the video. Those 2 people you see walking over are Madison and Dante. Madison's later punched, Dante's later stabbed. There's Isaac's bracelet. As Madison is walking over, she's yelling, go, go, go. Nicolae says, you'll hear it in the video, they took my snorkel. Madison's pointing and yelling for him to go. Right photo, you can see Nicolae puts his hand on that knife in his pocket again. He's smiling. As Madison and Riley, two women, are talking to him, telling him to leave, he takes out his knife. He opens it, blade up, still smirking, looking straight at the women. You'll not see him try to take a step back or walk away. You will see him looking around, smirking, while continuing to hold the knife down by his side. Nicolae doesn't walk back to his group. Instead, he turns to Tony with the knife in his right hand. He stabs at him twice. You can see Riley bleeding in the background. Ariel, Nicolae's friend, is there as he's lunging the knife at Tony. That hand there on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see more clearly in the next still shots. Isaac goes to shove Nicolae. See the gold bracelet? As he's shoving Nicolae lunges out with the knife. Nicolae kind of stumbles back from the push, comes back with his knife covered in blood and dripping blood. You can see the women recoiling from him. Nicolae ends up by his friend Ariel as he's stumbling from the push.
So the prosecution really making Miu out to be the aggressor here. He was the instigator. He was the one who introduced a weapon into this equation. And the only weapon, by the way, everybody else was unarmed. That he was the danger, that he heightened the situation. They also called out some of his questionable behavior after the attack that left 1 dead and 4 injured. But we're going to get to that a little bit later as well, what he said afterwards. Hey everybody, I want to take a quick sidebar from Sidebar to tell you guys about Wondery's awesome podcast, American Scandal. You can listen right now and explore the biggest political corruption scheme in U.S. history. Using vivid and immersive storytelling, American Scandal retraces the bribes, players, and underhanded deals related to the Teapot Dome scandal. In 1922, newspapers reported that Secretary of the Interior Albert Fall had leased federally owned oil reserves to two of the nation's wealthiest oil barons, Edward Doheny and Harry Sinclair. Fall had made the deals to enrich himself, and all three men were charged with defrauding the U.S. government. The scandal, named after one of the oil reserves in Wyoming, would eventually send Sinclair to prison for contempt of Congress and jury tampering, and made Fall the first person ever convicted of a crime committed while serving in the U.S. cabinet. Follow American Scandal on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge this season, American Scandal Teapot Dome, early and ad-free right now at wondery.fm/LC Sidebar. But now let's focus on the defense. Their argument, this was self-defense, that it was reasonable, that it was proper under these circumstances for Miu to use deadly force because he was in reasonable, legitimate fear of imminent death or serious bodily injury.
Nick Miu standing in the river with 13 strangers. 13 drunk, angry strangers. 13 against 1. They yelled and they screamed in order to attract a crowd. They got a crowd. They told lies to make the crowd angry. He's looking for little girls. He's looking for little girls. They layered their lies. They made them louder to make the crowd more angry. He's a predator. He's a predator. They chanted. They pulled on him. They closed the space around him. They got up in his face and they pushed him. Somebody else pushed him. And they pointed and they pushed and they pushed and they pushed. They got violent. They got violent. They knocked a grown man, punched him, knocked him into the water. And when he's down in the water, they come up on him and they hit him again when he's down in the water. When he tries to get up out of the water, they attack him from the front, smack him across the front of the face, while somebody else comes from behind and starts pushing him down. In that moment, he feared for his life. And he responded in self-defense. Let me show you what they did.
They're young, they're strong, he's old, he's weaker, they're screaming names at him, they're circling him, they're coming closer to him. One of the people there starts to film him. They claim he's looking for girls and that he's a predator. I'll tell you what, I mentioned I wasn't going to show you the video of the actual attack. We're not going to do that, but what I will show you is the portion or the portions of the video of the encounter leading up to the attack. Take a look.
What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? What? Get away from us. What? What's going on with y'all homie? He's on camera. Tripping. Yo, the new iPhone got that good quality. What did you say? He said he was looking for a little girl! He said he was looking for a little girl! You're looking for a little girl? Yeah! That's exactly what he said! Weirded us out! I even have that part on camera! Young ass kid! What the hell is this guy's problem, bro? We're trying to have fun! He's gonna claim you! He's gonna claim you! We don't want this one!
So that's a good sampling of what was going on. And one of the themes here will be, who started this? Who threw the first punch? Or rather, who became physical first? Well, we heard from the people who were there that day.
What does this picture show?
Isaac with his hands raised.
All right, does he have anything in his hands?
No.
While you were having this argument with Mr. Miu and trying to figure out what he was doing, were you able to see his face?
Yeah.
Did he look to be frightened?
No.
What kind of facial expression did he have?
He was smiling.
While the two women are talking to Mr. Miu, what happened next? What did he do?
He punched one of the girls in the face.
You remember which one it was?
I believe the blonde one. Not
Right.
100% sure though.
Did you ever hear him say, you know, get out of my way, let me go?
I did not.
Did you ever hear him call out for help?
No.
Did you encircle Mr. Miu before any of the fight started?
I wouldn't say circle. I would say we were standing near to him.
Did you specifically record interactions that your group had with Nicolae Miu, the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Why did you start recording them?
Because he was just kind of looking suspicious from what I was seeing. He had said like a weird comment. That's kind of why I started recording in the first place. Like, because he was having his snorkel and it was like 2 feet deep water. So like, what are you doing? And then he just said like a weird comment, something about like some little girls.
After you said he was a raper, did he come closer to your group?
Yeah.
Did you restart your recording?
Yeah, because after I said that, I like looked away and was like, whoa, whoa, because he looks really scary when he looked at us.
Did you threaten him in any fashion?
No, not at all.
Did you hear Isaac Schuman threaten Mr. Miu in any fashion?
No.
Okay, so you have witnesses saying they started berating Miu because they thought he was creepy and he was strange and he was weird. And a number of witnesses said Miu punched a woman there Madison Cone, that's what started the whole confrontation. And again, they were all unarmed. But the defense, they grilled these witnesses on cross-examination.
So he's walking away from where your tubes are.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
But your group walks toward him, right? You keep saying they don't, and it's clear they're moving in his direction, yes?
Yes.
At that point, are you guys calling him a pedophile?
I think, yeah, we were previously.
You were previously calling him a pedophile.
Like, we were shouting, and that's, I think, why they came over.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you said you believe that's why they came over?
They heard us shouting, so I
Sure.
believe, yeah.
And certainly to you, shouting pedophile could be something that would draw people's attention, right?
Yes.
So you don't have any information that he was looking for small children, do you?
No.
Okay. You'd agree, calling somebody a pedophile isn't the same thing as calling somebody like a jerk or an a-hole or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That blonde is the girl that you said was punched in the face and went down, right?
Yeah.
You'd agree she doesn't go down, right?
If that was the woman that was punched, then,
Well, she's the blonde, right?
yeah.
Okay. So you'd agree now looking at this, she doesn't go down.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're aware that Isaac has his hands around Mr. Miu's throat?
I didn't know that he had his hands around his throat, no.
You didn't see that?
No.
You'd agree with this. On that video, nobody is stabbed until Mr. Miu is punched in the face and knocked in the water, right? You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you would agree that the people that are injured with the knife, that all happens after Mr. Miu has been knocked in the water, punched, slapped, pushed, right?
Yes.
Okay. You indicated that Mr. Miu told you that he was looking for a snorkel. Is that right?
That is what I said.
Okay. You never mentioned to officers that he told you anything about looking for little girls, correct?
If that's what it says.
My question to you is, do you believe telling him that he can't have sex with little girls and calling him a raper would be considered antagonizing?
Yes.
My question is, you've admitted he gives you a path and you don't take it, right?
Yes.
You stay, right?
Yes.
Group stays, don't they?
Yes.
Okay.
What was the defense trying to do? Trying to say they were the aggressors. They were the bullies. They were instigating. They were rising the temperature of this scene. That maybe they weren't that forthcoming with information to police, or they were inconsistent with their accounts. Now, we also did hear the absolutely harrowing testimony from those who were actually stabbed.
What else do you remember about you getting stabbed?
I just remember seeing Nick's face very blank and not lunging at me, but just kind of poking me, and I held my side and I was like, ow, like, Janelle, I think he punched me. That really hurt, like, and I looked down and I was bleeding out and holding my stomach, and it just, like, didn't feel real. Like, it was just a lot of shock. And
well, after he had hit Maddie in the face, I saw someone else hit him, and I wasn't sure who. I saw him fall into the water, and my intention was, because I used to work at elementary schools and had experience breaking up fights with little kids and stuff like that, so my intention was to go over there and try and break it up. I saw him in the water and I saw people going around him, so I went to push his shoulder in the front, but ultimately didn't. But I was gonna try and just get him to stay down for another second and then tell everyone to back up, and then we could have figured out what was going on. But as I reached down to push him in the shoulders, he reached up and I guess, I don't know if you call it a stab, but got me with the knife.
And there was some other really bad evidence for Nicolae Miu. And it wasn't even necessarily what happened in the river, but what he did afterwards. There are a series of highly problematic statements, including to the police, where he either acts like he doesn't know what happened, provides a false narrative of events, and then just straight up lies.
Still doing all right?
Okay.
what's going
Temperature's okay in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody,
All right.
I hear somebody got stabbed,
Um,
and I fit the description.
yes, you do.
All right.
Yep. So we're working through that now.
Did you have a knife with
No,
you?
no, absolutely.
Okay.
I had one earlier that I used to cut, but right at the beginning, and I left it I don't even know what I did with it. I think I either gave it to one of the people, or I put it back in my truck.
Okay.
Yeah. So it may have been. I tell you the truth, I don't even know. Can you tell me what happened?
Yes. 4 people went to the hospital with injuries,
Oh my God.
and 1 person died.
Oh no.
I don't know any of their names, and I don't know any genders, so I don't know.
Was that because they fought each other, or is
I
that
don't know. I don't know. I don't know what their injuries are. I was with Sandy the whole time, and then when I kind of turned Sandy over to Ernesto and Amy, then I came here. So I have no idea what their injuries were.
Oh my God.
Now, he eventually admits to the jury he lied. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's go to his testimony. Because yes, Nicolae Miu took the stand, which is not surprising in self-defense cases. I usually say it's such a risk for a defendant to testify in their own defense, and it's because how will they come off? Is their testimony going to be consistent with prior statements they made? How will they fare under cross-examination? However, in self-defense cases, there's an argument that the jury needs to hear from the defendant as to why they felt it was necessary to use deadly force. Explain it to the jury. They need to hear it. They need to understand it. So how did Nicolae Miu do? Well, as you're going to see, he walks through step by step his recollection of what happened as this event unfolded.
Do you remember what Madison did, if anything, to you?
Yeah.
What did she do?
She grabbed my right arm and she pulled me towards her, and I lost my balance, so I moved towards her.
Do you remember what you say to Madison after she pulled on your right arm?
Yeah, I told her not to touch me.
And why did you tell her that?
Because she pulled on me without my invitation.
What do you remember about that?
I remember the young boys are yelling, pointing at me, saying things that are not true.
Okay.
They were very close. They were really close to me. I could see and hear them.
How about your fear scale there? Where is it? Where is it?
About 2 or 3.
Okay. I see in the one on the right there, you have your hand someplace. Can you tell me what you're doing with your right hand?
Yes, I'm reaching for my pocket knife.
Why?
Because at one point my fear was getting really high, and
Okay.
I was getting ready to pull it out.
Okay. Would it surprise you if you touched her?
No.
Was that, in fact, your purpose in pushing her away?
Absolutely.
Okay.
She was in my space.
After you did that, right, did something happen to you?
Yeah.
Did people do something to you?
Yeah.
What was done to you?
Yeah, almost right away I got punched and fell in the water.
Where did you get punched?
On my face, on my side of the head.
Do you remember how you felt when you fell back into the water?
I was, number one, I was stunned. That's why I fell backwards. I was very afraid, of course.
On this fear scale that you've talked about before, where are you on that scale from 0 to 10?
Right at the top, 10.
Have you ever been at that 10 before in your life?
Never been in a situation like this or a fight in my life.
Have you ever been at a 10?
Never.
When you did that, as we see on the right, what happened to your head?
Oh, well, I fell in the water. Obviously, that's a river, and I hit my head. I tried getting up, but I couldn't.
At some point, did you feel something on your backside?
There was somebody pushing me down.
And when you felt that on your backside, did you feel anything else anywhere else?
I got hit in the face, in the front of my head.
You've seen the video and you responded at some point, is that right?
Yes,
And you used your knife in response.
yes.
Why'd you use your knife?
I feared for my life.
Did you think you could get out of there without using your knife?
I couldn't even get up. They're pushing me down. No, so the answer is no.
What do you believe would have happened to you had you not used your knife?
I would have died. I believe I would have been killed that day.
Why'd
Or at
you,
that specific time,
why'd you use your knife?
to defend myself.
Okay, so that's the idea, that he was being attacked, he was surrounded, he was in the water, he had no choice but to use his knife. Well, under cross-examination by the prosecution, and remember I said it's always a danger for a defendant to take the stand because how will they fare when being questioned by the prosecution? He was challenged about that. And what they want to focus in on is that he was the aggressor, that this wasn't about fearing for his life, but this was about something else.
Your attorneys talked about your comfort scale and your fear scale. Let's talk about your anger scale, okay? At the time you were called a raper, what was your anger scale at?
Maybe 1.
1 out of 10?
Yeah.
And that was enough to get you to run up on these boys, grab onto them, stop their tubes at a 1. Is that what you're saying?
Objection, argument, that's not what he said.
Sustained.
You don't like being humiliated, right?
Nobody does.
When she came up and said, go, 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 you chose to stay, right?
I wanted to talk.
You didn't like that she was yelling at you, right?
I only had like 2 or 3 seconds of direct verbal or whatever.
So at that point, you're touching your knife before Maddie and Riley are standing in front of you, right?
Appears that way.
You had your knife out and you were prepared to use it.
To defend myself.
At that point, there's nothing to defend yourself from, right?
I didn't know that.
After you pushed Maddie Cohen, only one person ever punched you, right?
From the video?
Right.
That's what I see. I don't remember what happened there at that time.
I'm not asking you what you remember, I'm asking what actually happened.
I got punched.
You never suffered any kind of bruising or cuts to your face from this incident, right?
On the inside of my cheek?
You cut the inside of your cheek.
Yes.
Yeah, you never had any bruising on your jaw, right?
I don't remember.
In response, you got up out of the water, right?
Mhm.
You take your knife in your right hand with the blade up, right?
Objection is in narration.
Overruled.
That's what you did, right?
Still in my hand, yes, that way.
You jabbed it into his belly.
About the same time he hit me in the throat.
That's not what I'm asking.
Yes.
You jabbed it into his belly, right?
Yes.
Instead of pulling it out, you pulled up, right?
Because I had so much time to think about it.
You pulled up.
I did not pull up.
Okay,
Look at the angle of my arm.
You stabbed the guy who tried to break up the fight twice, right?
Objection. 1.
Overruled.
That's what happened, right?
That's what happened.
And luckily for him, he was able to block your first stab, so you stabbed him again, right?
I had milliseconds to think.
Riley Madison, after you stabbed Tony Carlson, you turned around, you got up, you turned around, and you sliced Riley Madison through her left side of her body, right?
Yes.
She wasn't punching you or kicking you.
She came at me and she had her hands on me.
At the time you stabbed her, she had her hands on you.
Yes.
This 115-pound woman attacked you while you're standing there holding a knife.
She could have been 500 pounds. I don't know. I'm sorry, sir, but
You've never told anyone ever that Riley Madison attacked you and that's why you stabbed her, right?
No.
You're saying it today for the first time.
I don't remember this whole thing.
Not one of these people that you stabbed so far in the video were armed in any fashion, right?
Right.
You told an elaborate story about people pulling knives on you, right?
Objection, argumentative as to form.
Overruled. Right? You made up that story?
To Brandy Hart?
Lieutenant Hart, yes.
I don't remember that, but I saw the video, yes.
So again, you're overblowing what happened to you. You escalated that situation. You could have walked away, but you didn't. You were angry. You didn't have to keep stabbing. You could have stopped, but you didn't. And under the law, if you're the aggressor, you can't claim self-defense. If you're not in reasonable fear for your life, and this is not if you're angry, but if you're not in reasonable fear for your life, you can't use deadly force. You can't claim self-defense. Being angry doesn't work here. And it doesn't help that Miu had been caught in lies and inconsistencies. And this is why the jury came back with this verdict.
Verdicts read as follows. As to count one of the information, Isaac Schuman, the jury finds Nicolae Miu guilty of first-degree reckless homicide as submitted.
So in total, Nicolae Miu was convicted of 6 counts. First-degree reckless homicide, 4 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety, and battery. And that brings us to the latest development, the sentencing of Nicolae Miu that happened this week in the St. Croix County District Court in Hudson, Wisconsin. And we heard from several people that day. We heard from the prosecution. Take a look.
I'm sure defense is going to spend a lot of time talking about his lack of criminal history. It's not unusual we see horrific crimes committed by somebody with no criminal history. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion about him being a peaceful person. A peaceful person doesn't rush up on a group of teenagers because they insulted you. Doesn't refuse to walk away. A peaceful person doesn't take out a knife when they could have just walked away. Doesn't start a fight and stab 5 people. I think there's more, a big question in this, I think defense is going to argue, is he's not a danger to the public. One, I think the crimes speak for themselves. Clearly he's a danger. No reasonable person in his situation would have acted like he did. This would have ended before it was even anything. Talking about leaving people belly up and terminating them is not the words of a peaceful person. His lack of remorse is certainly an indication of his lack of respect for human life. His dehumanizing the boys, including Isaac, with this terminology he uses to describe them.
Now, the prosecution was actually asking the court to impose a sentence of 70 years for the 54-year-old. The defense, though, was asking for probation, not prison time.
While the natural human feelings of those who've suffered loss may involve those very instinctual, common, emotional feelings that all label vengeance or some sort of strike back. That is not something we all agree we should promote. And my hope is at the end of this that Your Honor will have some words to address that and address the meaning of sentences and the purpose of that and how they may differ from vengeance.
And we even heard once more from Nicolae Miu himself.
Dear parents, family, and friends of Isaac, I would like to start by letting you know how deeply sorrowed I have been. I am, and I will always be, for the real fact that Isaac is not with you anymore, and that I was directly involved in his very tragic and unimaginable death at such an early age. I never meant for this tragedy to occur. My soul is broken. My heart is very heavy. And I will never be the same carrying such a heavy burden and sorrow. I pray to God for forgiveness, compassion, and love for everyone affected directly and indirectly by the outcome of this tragic event. I'm hoping that you appreciate how much I'm sorry for the outcome of those events. I'm very sorry.
But finally, it was time for Judge Michael Waterman's decision. So yes, there is a sentencing guideline for each charge. The court takes into consideration various factors, the arguments from both sides. Usually there's a pre-sentencing report that is prepared in anticipation of sentencing as well. But here is what Judge Waterman felt the sentence should be.
In assessing Mr. Miu's character, I must consider his conduct on July 30. Mr. Miu's crimes were the product of circumstance, not intent. Mr. Miu was not looking to cause trouble or hurt anyone, but he made a series of very poor decisions. When confronted with words and boorish taunts and insults, Mr. Miu drew a knife and he struck Madison Cohen. That quickly culminated in senseless, lethal violence. He left the scene, leaving his victims to die. I can tell Mr. Miu has taken this case very seriously. I imagine he is disheartened at the prospect of prison and the uncertainty of his future. But I also sense that Mr. Miu feels genuine sadness and remorse for what happened to his victims. At this time, I will impose the following sentence on Mr. Miu. For count 1, I will impose a term of initial confinement of 20 years, followed by 6 years of extended supervision. For count 2, involving Anthony Carlson, 5 years initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 3, involving Dante Carlson, 5 years of initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 4, Alexander Martin, 6 years of initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 5, Riley Madison, 5 years initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Count 6, Madison Cohen, 270 days of jail.
In other words, while there are separate sentences, they will all run concurrently, meaning at the same time, not one after the other. So in total, Nicolae Miu will spend the next 20 years in prison. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.